every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
welcome to our December Conservation Commission meeting. I'm Andrew Koff. I'm the chair of the commission, and we'll first do our introductions, starting down.
Michelle Crapo.
Kyle Welch. Keith Whitehouse.
Trevor Matera.
Connor Madison.
Dave Short.
And Kristen Murphy, Conservation and Sustainability Planner.
All right. We do have some public here. Does anyone here for comment? No comments. Okay, we'll move right into our action items. Our first action item is the commemorative bench dedication. And Kristen, do you want to talk about the commemorative bench?
I was thinking Dave.
Or Dave would? Dave can start.
Make Dave talk.
Well, after Carlos passed, that'd be a nice idea to do something to commemorate him. And so, one of his big interests among many was birding and stuff like that. And he did quite a bit of that up at Rains Farm. So the idea came up to do something up in that location. And we batted around a few ideas, and finally Kristen sent to me some photos of these benches called Leopold benches. They're very minimalist, but extremely comfortable and extremely utilitarian, I guess, and very inexpensive to build. Got the okay from you guys to purchase the materials. A friend of mine who's a longtime woodworker assembled them all, painted them, and a month or two ago, I think we delivered them up to Rains and put them kind of in a semicircle up on the knoll behind the barn. And from that, we kind of took the next step, tossing ideas around about maybe, not only commemorating Carlos, but also honoring people that have been longtime members of the Conservation Commission. And I forget how we got to the 10-year benchmark, but we thought that seemed to be the most inclusive for especially some of the more significant members. And so as part of this memorial, we'd like to put a placard on a bench or benches honoring people that have served on the Conservation Commission for 10 years or more. And that's kind of where we're at with it.
Yeah, so we're seeking your support or thoughts, I guess, on two items. The first is information to put on the marker. So the concept is we'd have one large marker and then the individual names on spread among the benches. And so we kind of batted around a couple quotes, which were fun, but ultimately kind of settled on, although I think Bill is still kind of leaning toward an Aldo Leopold quote. Mm-hmm. So open to discussion on that, but we recommended honoring those who provided a decade of service to the Exeter Conservation, a decade or more, or no, a decade of service to the Exeter Conservation Commission. And then in your packet, I kind of spread out, at least I went through the 80s. Bill pointed out there are other members from prior to that time that we should include, but listing out who those members would be that qualified, and so the group felt like 10 years was kind of a good mark. Yeah. So I think we're seeking support, guidance, input on the quote and the threshold for recognition.
Yep. So does 10 years make sense to people?
Right now it sits at about 10 people, it looks like, but there'll be more additional names?
Yeah, there likely will. I'm not sure.
Okay.
All depends who can stick it out that long. And the quotes that you had were, do you still have those, or?
It would take a minute to get them, but I can get them, yep. Carry on the 10-year discussion.
So we have 3 benches, and they have, I mean, there's enough real estate on the backs of these benches, right?
There's lots.
That
Yeah.
you're not talking to like fine print here of
No, I think, I mean,
that we can,
you know, something, say, that size, that,
for each name.
for each name, yeah.
Huh.
Because, you know, it's something that would be evolving over time.
Yeah.
You know, like when you get past 10 years, there,
That's good.
there you go. So,
It's kind of like an outdoor version of a wall of honor, you know?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So the Aldo Leopold quote was, when we see land, and there's many out there, but when we see land as a community to which we belong, we may begin to use it with love and respect. Does that sound right?
yeah, that was one of them, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
like
there's so
that.
many quotes out there.
Yeah. I mean, you know, in their own way, each one of them was good. But that,
There are some who can live without wild things and some who cannot. I'll stop there.
I like I like the community quote, the first Leopold quote, because that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were these benches called again? They were.
Leopold.
Is it like the kind of the crisscross? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
Selt uses them, is that right?
Yeah, we have.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I've seen.
I've
It's
seen
it's
them.
one of those things that you've seen a lot, but it never really registered.
Yeah, well, when you first talked about it, I remember I did what you just did. I had to Google it. And,
There's a couple around Exeter.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we've had Eagle Scouts construct them on properties in the past. They're simple,
They're cool.
comfortable enough.
Yeah, and when Jordan put it together, I mean, the things, you could drop it off the top of the barn and it would be fine. And then we did, we were thinking about, you know, to keep the feet from rotting. At first, the idea was to put it on some kind of, you know, masonry piece or something like that. But, you know, if they're hanging in the field and the benches have to be moved, then you got to relocate in exactly the right spot. So what we came up with instead was using composite on the foot of each.
oh, like
Right.
screwing a piece of composite to
Yeah.
the bottom.
Yeah, to keep that out of the soil, to keep the wood out of the soil.
Huh.
So that seemed to make the most sense to protect them.
It's a good design detail.
And then basically use like porch deck paint to paint them. And I think there's 2 or 3 coats on each one. So they're gonna last.
Okay.
And
Well, yeah, I'm good
and
with
also-
the 10 years and that quote. I mean, do we need to motion anything, or we're just sort of looking for
One other
consensus
thing I'd
here?
like to do too is I'd like to send a thank you letter to Jordan because he did all the work gratis. I mean, we got all 3 benches built basically for $200.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So I think the next step is just to authorize Kristen to look. I mean, you know where to get the plate material
Yep.
and stuff like that.
And you already authorized the funding, so
Yep.
it's just confirming you're good with that plan.
And then if you get them, I can put them on or whatever.
Or we could have a group meet out there, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be good to have a
Little
just
dedication.
at least, yeah, pick a time and then see who can come.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody good with the quote?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Quote, is that what we're doing?
Yeah, that
Okay.
first one, that was nice.
Yeah.
And I think the 10 years is good. I move that we are good with this plan.
Awesome.
Is that a second?
Oh, is this an actual motion?
Sort of.
It can be. If it is, then I will second.
All right, it is now.
It is now.
Okay.
And we're all in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None. Motion passes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and so that involves sending a thank you note too. I guess we'll make sure we get that done. Okay, up next we have an underwater camera purchase. We still have some remaining funds. This seems like a neat addition for alewife monitoring. Kristen, do you want to talk about it?
Sure. So, so the concept, and really Bob Glowacki was super helpful in refining the scope and the approach here. But the concept is we would attach an underwater camera to, one of those kind of a paver brick style thing in the river, just downstream from String Bridge, which tends to be an area where alewife pool and rest before they head upstream. I checked with Fish and Game. There's no permits needed for something like this. And then the part that we haven't quite figured out yet is how physically it will connect to internet. But there were 2 locations in the library where they could connect to. So there would be an additional cost associated with that. I don't have a quote for you yet because we haven't really refined where we're connecting. But the concept would be we could have an interpretive sign inside the library, possibly in the children's room, where you can either pull up the website or have a visual display during the spring. So it would, in my mind, it would have, interpretive information about, or educational information about alewife and the and tidal rivers, and then also possibly something at the String Bridge area. Bob has been really interested in trying to create some sort of spot there to highlight alewives, especially during migration. That's been a part of the Alewife Festival. That's a stop that we go to. And so, so this is kind of, it's not a bare bones, but it's not high, it's not a high-end camera. So it is $760 that would need to connect to internet, but it's something we could share on our website. You can access it anywhere because it would be like a live stream that you could connect to. So if you're supportive, I'm requesting a motion to authorize that purchase.
I thought you wanted 800? Isn't that what you'd said originally?
I don't know. Did I?
Up to 800.
Up to 800, yeah. Just in case there was shipping,
I'll make that motion.
Just before we do, I just had a couple of questions about it.
Yeah.
So we'll be attaching, I'm just looking up the specs now. We're attaching the camera to a block and we're just sort of putting it out in the water for
Seasonally.
Seasonally,
Yep.
okay. I don't see like a wiper on this, so how do you think we'll be dealing with like biofouling or anything like that? Is someone going to be bringing them in and cleaning it off?
My goodness, I don't know what biofoul is.
That's all the
Please
muck,
inform us,
like your
yes.
muck, the muck that gets on.
okay.
PhD.
Yeah.
And that's something that, is that something that would accumulate?
Depends where it's put.
In running water?
What's that?
In running water, would it?
Maybe.
Well, didn't you
it might not be an issue because of the running water.
Didn't you spend all last spring up to your waist in the water out in the bay?
And it got gross out there.
You're volunteering?
So Trevor, are there like attachments or you have to go with a whole different camera? Like is there a tech out there that addresses that or physically someone would?
Like a windshield wiper kind of thing you're talking about?
So, yeah, and again, a lot of my experience is actually working out in the bay, so where the fouling is a lot worse. But depending on the instrument, like some of our light sensors will have a little like wipers that go around at a certain time. Otherwise, if they don't, we have divers that dive down on them and clean it. Again, it might not be an issue where we're putting it. It also might not be an issue if it doesn't foul quickly. If it's like, every like week or 2 weeks it gets kind of gross on the live feed and we got to like someone has to just go out there and scrub it off. That's not a big deal. I just want to bring it to everyone's attention that it might not be a elite.
forget it.
Well,
One and done.
How long a period of time are you thinking of it going in the river for? What's the actual
So,
time of the
I mean,
migration?
I don't know,
A month, 2 months?
and, yeah, 2 months at the most, yeah.
So hopefully.
And it's not in an inaccessible place, so I think should that be the case, we could come up with some sort of approach to
Sure.
send someone down to wipe it, but
Yep.
but I can also look to see if there's a model that does that.
Well, tell you what, I'll be tribute for the first round. So I think getting it and giving it a shot, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
And I got some waiters, so we can keep an eye on it. And when I
Okay.
need to go down there, we can wipe it.
Great.
And if it,
That's
you
a
know,
good thought. I
if it's
wouldn't have-
awful, then we'll come up with Plan B.
And what was our vocab word?
Biofouling.
Bio.
Algae.
FOWL?
What's that?
Sometimes there, yeah.
I'd also be willing to help out cleaning that if,
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be in shallow water, so
Yeah.
that makes it a little bit easier.
Great. Thank you.
Did you make a
That's why
second?
it takes a team.
Did you do a second or not?
Did
Yeah,
you
that
motion?
sounds like a
Oh, you
sort of a
motioned.
fun
Motion.
task.
Oh, no,
I think you'll get plenty of people. I'll go down there.
Do this one
Get
too.
on camera, pick the thing up.
All right. So I made a motion.
You made a motion for the 800.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? None. The motion passes unanimously for $800. Okay, next we have our annual town report. We got a request we have a write-up in the annual town booklet that gets distributed around the voting in March town. So every year, Kristen usually spearheads, thankfully, pulling together a blurb about what we did in 2023. So does anyone have any ideas, pictures to include? It's usually a page or two. What happened this year? What did we do?
Yeah, so, and I didn't put together a draft yet, but if you have stuff that you want included, if you could send it to me, same with photos, I would appreciate it. I think it's due in January.
Sounds
So-
right.
I think a photo of those benches sitting on the knoll
I think that's a great idea.
would be really nice.
In the barn, I
the
mean,
barn.
we could just highlight,
If you can find a part that looks semi-finished.
barn is in
rustic.
progress.
Very slow progress.
Well, that's part of it.
But that would be also a good opportunity to, again, kind of honor the long-serving members.
Yeah,
It gives you, a nice little story to put in there.
I think that's a great idea.
I think that's, yeah, be a focal point.
And then you could just tick off some of the, like rider property and, things like that.
Yeah,
But
sounds good. Pictures,
Is there
send
a
my way,
picture of
please.
Keith pulling that canoe out of the
Yeah, right?
muck?
No witnesses.
Would it make sense to solicit for pictures from the town? Like, there have been people posting amazing photos of the eagles, and there's been a seal downtown on the docks, for most of the year, and
My only fear with that is how do we choose, right? Like, because we don't have a lot of space. I mean, I think
yeah.
1 to 2 pages is atypically the amount that we're allowed.
you're going to get like one picture.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
the Facebook page has a lot of eagle pictures.
I mean, we could even reach out to this guy who takes a lot of the pictures and ask him if we could use one of his shots.
Maybe you got the seal and the eagle in one picture.
That'd be something.
His photos are incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they really are.
Yeah, I mean, I think the benches and reins seems more, I guess, core to what we are doing.
Yeah.
As much as I like the eagle, it's not directly related to us, I guess.
Until one day when we host a photography workshop or photo workshop, and they can come and display, or photo art display and pop-up art show. That would be great. When the barn is done.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to help Kristen
We'll all
help
be on
with
the-
this writing
The
of
names
this?
will all be on the
I
back.
can help
by
with
then.
that.
Michelle, you
Yeah, I can
interest?
Great.
Yeah.
So, great. Thank you,
That'd be
Michelle.
awesome. Okay,
Oh, that's too.
let's move on to the next one. We'll talk a little bit about the Rugg property, and we have a request for a letter of support. But I guess before we get into that, Kyle and I were both at this meeting at the Word Barn last Wednesday. So I just thought we could report out for a second about that before we get into the letter. It was a good meeting, it was well attended, it was packed. House there, people from Newfields in Exeter and some people from other towns as well. And so Lynette did a presentation, and the Newfields, I got to meet Jeff with the Newfields Conservation Commission, and I think Chris is the assistant chair, so we got to sort of connect with them a little bit. Toby Furden did a short talk, and Dwayne Hyde were all there. So it was a good, there was a short presentation and then lots of question and answers about all sorts of things and the timeline. Just a few takeaways from that, from my perspective of things that I hadn't heard about yet, or hadn't really keyed in on. One is this concept, it's a community forest. So the intent is it to be jointly managed between Newfields and Exeter and the Fort Rock Riders and other interest parties. So it may end up, I guess it's the Exeter piece, certainly we will have a say in that, but it doesn't seem like it's just going to necessarily be folded into Oakland's.
Right.
It may have a slightly different approach to how it's managed through this community forest concept.
Right, we would have a seat at the table, but we would not be the only ones deciding how it was going to be managed.
Yeah. So that I had heard that term, community forest, but it was made clear to me that the plan is to have a management strategy for that, both sides, and we would all work together. So it makes it a little more complicated in a way, I guess. But
And I know that the reasoning for that was a portion of, or not the reasoning for it, but one of the grant applications was for community forest projects. And so I knew that applied to Newfields. I guess I didn't realize that did apply definitely to Exeter as well. So I'm glad you shared that.
yeah, and maybe it's worth talking about. I don't know.
I would like to address that, because the letter specifically says this grant would not apply to the Exeter side of the land acquisition. So,
This particular grant that we're looking
Yes.
at, yeah.
and so what I'm understanding is this would preclude Exeter from pursuing this grant any further, because it's project-based. The state would look at it, or it's a federal grant, but it would be looked at as a whole. But this would definitely go towards Newfields and would not go toward the cost of Exeter.
Yeah. I'm not
So
sure
if
why.
the drinking fund, we didn't get the drinking fund, we would have nothing.
We didn't get the grant.
The drinking
They're
fund
going to
on this
reapply
one?
for it next year, though.
Oh,
Okay.
this year we didn't, right. There's a
And
possibility. you could get
Right,
it.
so if we didn't get that again, so then we don't have the ability to apply for this.
Why if we were going for, or if a community grant is being applied for, why wouldn't the proceeds from that be divided proportionally? I think is what you're getting at.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would seem to make sense.
if it's a community project.
Right.
But she specifically said in her letter, this grant would not apply to the Exeter portion.
I wonder why.
Yeah, none of, yeah.
Yeah,
So all of this, if it's a community project, why is all this funding going towards the Newfields price,
Right.
cost, I should say?
That's a legit question.
Yeah.
Just trying to pull up I didn't print out the project agreement, or project description.
But it's confusing because in the beginning of the email, it does say it applies to the entire, support the larger 148 acre project.
Yeah,
I mean, certainly their side is more expensive,
Right.
larger. I think it also could be that they talked a fair amount about the creation of a parking area up there. And that's a major piece of it, is to create an additional access point off of Piscask Road on 87. So that was part of it. So I'm not sure though, Michelle, I don't know if we would be eligible for this grant on our own. I don't think we necessarily would.
I don't think we would. I think
if
they're
we would, they would have
project-based.
included in, so
Yeah.
I don't,
They're project-based usually. not-
Yeah.
If they're looking at this as a whole, right?
But if we're doing this in a partnership,
So, and I know Lynette's not here, right? She's not online or anything, but, right?
no, she's not on.
So my understanding is, an appraisal was done to look at the property and what it would cost to acquire, and then the costs for that were portioned out between the towns based on the percent of acre within each town, percent of acreage within each town.
Correct.
And then Trust for Public Lands was seeking costs to offset portions of the costs that the towns would carry through grants. And so, I do understand, I think this is an important thing to talk about. But I'm just offering what I think Lynette might share in terms of the reasoning.
Right, because I would like a little clarification on that, because if we approve this letter and say, yeah, you go for the $500,000, and then we can't, and we find out it is separate, then,
Well, I mean, I don't think we would, I think that they're pursuing all the funding. I don't think it would make sense for us to separately apply for grants.
Yeah.
Certainly not in this round, because I know Parks and Rec are applying for Land Water Conservation Fund
Yeah.
grant applications, so
I guess Lynette and the Trust for Public Land, they're the ones, and they talked about this, how are we going to fund this? It's a complicated funding strategy. So it's a complicated, expensive project, and I can't describe all of it. Kyle, you might be able to describe it better.
there is a breakdown, and
Yeah, and I think it may, and it's evolving too, because that was the June one. It may be different now, because they're looking for more. I think they have found more grants or funds available they're looking to apply to, and that's part of it. And they'll also be looking for private donations next year for some of the administrative costs. So it's a complicated project in that way, and so I don't see us applying separately from the work. If we found a grant, we would, I think, work with them to have them apply for it, because this is really their project, or am I wrong in that? I'm
well,
not
it's
sure.
just this letter was confusing, this letter of support, because she specifically said the grant would not apply to Exeter, so.
Right. But that's how it's broken down in this
Yeah.
funding source.
The funding
the
source
budget as
also.
well. And I would hope that if they're looking to sort of spread these costs out through different funding sources, I would hope that if they were going after a grant for the Exeter piece, that Newfields would then provide a letter of support in the same way. So I don't feel, I feel it's been pretty transparent as to which sources they're going for here, so this seems in line with the fact that they were going for the LWCF for the Newfields piece for that $500,000. And because of that, I'm not put off as much, because I agree. I don't think we would be going after that, for not only because Parks and Rec is going after it for a different project, but because we wouldn't start our own project and trying to acquire that piece through a different grant. So
I guess I'm not saying we would start our own project. That's not what I mean. I just meant they would take it here and put it on our line, put it toward us. I mean, toward Exeter. It's just how it looks right now is if the drinking water grant went away,
right.
we don't have anything under funding sources for Exeter.
Right, or why isn't it being apportioned equally or based on the area between the two towns? Why is it just being applied to the Newfields portion?
Well, all the grants.
All the grants,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. It should, if it's a community project, it ought to be project-wide.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they shouldn't split it between as they have it here, Newfields and Exeter, but I should think that if it's a community project, they would do it proportionally.
I think they're trying, I think that's their goal, and maybe there's a reason why they can't do that in this particular one, but I'm not sure.
Well, could they do
Either.
it for Exeter and not Newfields?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I mean, not that I don't want to go that route.
No, but
if we're going to work together jointly in some parts, then we should be working together jointly in all the parts.
oh, exactly. That's exactly, my
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
Well, I think we certainly can, I don't think we have time to like ask them this and then reconvene. Unfortunately, this particular thing just happens to be due tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow even.
Well, the grant application could go in.
It doesn't need our letter of support. We certainly, if we don't feel comfortable with the
Oh,
letter
no,
of support.
we could support it, but then we could also condition our support based upon further negotiation of these different grants on how they're going to be able to apply for, and then if they're awarded, how they're going to be divided.
Yeah. This may be a better conversation. Lynette I think she's on the agenda now at the select board for next week. So this conversation may be better in front of Lynette and the select board, because they're going to have lots of questions, I think, about who's going to fund.
I wouldn't hold up the application, but I would definitely say, okay, we've done this,
Yeah.
but these are some things we want to discuss.
Yeah, and from the meeting, the whole project needs to be funded. If Exeter, it needs to be both sides. So they're hoping to parallel track everything. Newfields is either there's a bond going before Newfields this year or 2024 in March.
Right.
There is not going to be one in Exeter.
Well, I think they were doing a citizen's
But
petition.
there may be a citizen petition
added to the Newfields for the bond. But for Exeter, they wanted to do a citizen's petition for a warrant article that says, once the property dispute is resolved, would Exeter be willing to have a warrant article in 2025? And I think that was to placate the property owners, just to give them a little confidence that this was going to go forward once there was resolution.
Yeah, there's a clear demonstration that they want to push this project in 2024.
Close in
To
2025.
be able to close in 2025.
So on the Exeter ballot this year, it would just be do the citizens support this project
Yeah.
without any money.
And I
talked
haven't,
about.
yeah, they weren't very clear on what the exact language would look like if and when there's a citizen's petition. But that may be coming.
Based on I see, based on the title search, once the title search is cleared up. Is that what the petition's addressing?
I don't know if it'll include the title issues or not. I think the idea is to try to get the word out and gain support for the project. And they see this as potentially a way to get the word out.
Well, they want
about
to feel like there is good faith interest from the Exeter side in pursuing this. Because they had kind of drawn a line in the sand on 2024, wanting the funding in place by March 24,
Yeah.
which was completely unrealistic.
Because I brought it up to Lynette. She was at the meeting on Zoom one night, and I said, what about 2025? And she said, no, we got to do it in 2024. But
Yeah, and that's not going to happen.
it's not going to happen.
But in return for them agreeing to take a step back and allow things to kind of start coming together, give it time for things to come together, they'd like to see some genuine good faith interest on the part of Exeter. Obviously, Exeter can't make any financial commitments at this point, but I think it would help reassure the property owners that they're just not waiting around for nothing.
Yep,
And I think that's only fair.
I agree. Okay, so that was some of the things that came out of the meeting. I don't know if there were any other. Certainly, people were discussing, the benefits of conserving the property versus developing it, and how it does benefit the town, and more than just trying to push back against the notion that this is really just going to benefit mountain bike riders who use the trails. So I think that's one thing that's going to have to be, a case is going to have to be made to the town of Exeter about how this relatively small area surrounded by woods is going to be valuable to the general townsperson. And there's good arguments to be made for that.
Maybe we could get a photo of you and Kyle trail running to show that it's not just bikers. We'll post that.
Dog walkers. I'll bring my dog.
Yeah.
Bring our dogs.
Dog runners.
Yeah.
They have some nice photos. They had in that packet, I think Kristen sent out, they have some good stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right, so regarding though this letter, seems like we have some, do we feel comfortable issuing or having us have a letter of support for this project, for this grant application? And then we can, I guess I would say we do send a letter, and I think it's worth having a direct conversation after the fact about clarification to understand what, because there's more to it than what's in this letter. That would be my thought, just to continue to support this project, because it's a really exciting project.
I'll make a motion that we authorize, I guess you would sign the letter of support, authorize the chairman to sign the letter of support for them to pursue this grant.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. We'll hop on that. Okay. What's next? Committee reports. Do we have any property management?
We did receive a donation of some saplings. I don't know if a member who was involved with that is interested in sharing or not.
The new forest?
What?
The new forest?
Yes.
My mother-in-law got she made a donation to the National Arbor Association or Audubon or something like that. And she got a bag full of little spruce seedlings. And she lives in Northborough, so she had no use for them. So she gave them to me over Thanksgiving, and I brought them back up here, and I had no idea what I was going to do with them. But then at the Trestle parking lot, as you're exiting it to head up towards the gas lines, there's always been that ugly slope that was cut that's never grown anything since they did the logging operation. So a couple days after I got back, I was just looking around for a place to plant the stupid things. And I went up there, and, the spruce, they like clay soil. And I took an iron bar and just poked some holes in the ground and stuck them in. And there's like 8, 10 of them or something like that. And if they make it, they make it. It'll maybe green that slope up a little bit.
Nice.
So.
I think that's great.
Peter would be proud, right?
Peter Waltz.
Peter
Yes.
Waltz, the tree,
Yes.
the spruce tree, the Johnny Apple's tree of Appleseed of Exeter, spreading his spruce trees.
Yes. And then more items on property maintenance. Kyle actually offered to do the report to LCIP, which is not the same as LCHIP, for the Oakland's parcels. He's out there at least once a week anyway, so he's taking care of that, which is great. Other than that, all our reports are done. And I'm starting to tick away at other parcels that we're not required to report on annually. So having a delayed winter is good, always, for that part of property management. I think that's it. Oh, the Brickyard Trails sign was damaged. Parks and Rec is either in the process or has put it back out. So there was a little bit of vandalism out there to it. That's the parcel that we acquired through the Grissett development.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah. I think that's it. I'm sure there's other things, but...
Okay.
I should have brought this up under Rugg. We did get 2, sorry, I'm a little slow, I guess, on the uptick. 2 letters of support for the Rugg property. One was from Ray Southworth, and I'll pass these around. Ray had found and had a picture of, and it's on the letter here, a black racer and a spotted turtle. And so he expressed his support, as did Nancy Belanger received a letter of support from Janet Stevens, and I'll share those. Ray hadn't reported the findings to New Hampshire Fish and Game, so he said he would now, so that's exciting. We'll have that additional data point, but I'll pass these along, sorry.
That was on the Rugg property?
I don't know if it was just in the area
Just in the areas.
or on specifically that parcel.
So I've also received some email correspondence in support of the Rugg property, and I know I forwarded at least one to Kyle, because they had questions about what's next and things like that, so.
Okay.
I know there's been, a lot of interest through all the different public meetings that have been going on, and people have my name, or I'm glad they're reaching out to you too. And I know the select board has been included on some of those
Yes.
communications
One
too.
of those came from Nancy. She forwarded it on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to backtrack us on the agenda.
No, that's great. Cool. Are there any other trail updates? No. Okay.
Well, I guess, do we have any updates on the power line work and what their timeline is, or?
So the original agreement was through the end of January, but they said that they would push through the end of the year. I've not checked in with them to confirm. It does look to me like Rains is close to wrapping up. I haven't
That's
seen
what I
the
thought.
work in, between Captains and Watson to know
They had
if they're done there
They had
or
a
not.
bunch of trucks in there, just even over the weekend parked in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like they're going for,
Trying to do it quickly.
Going great guns on it.
Yeah, I mean, they only get a small window for when they can, as they explained to us, when they can, I don't know, in my mind, disconnect the power and reconnect it and put the new, hook the new lines up. And so I'm sure they're trying to fall within that. And they did commit to us to getting through the construction process as quickly as possible. So I haven't heard any extensions. My assumption would be the end of January at the latest.
Okay. So that trail is still closed. Their access through there is limited.
Ostensibly.
Yeah. And there was, I guess, the other trails thing, and thank you to Kyle for reporting it and Kristen for posting about the leaf blowing throughout the Oakland's property. I did go up last weekend and I did see it. So yeah, it's a lot of leaf blowing occurred in the town forest. It's not something we've ever allowed, but it's occurred from time to time. I guess it's mountain bikers prefer it to have the leaves removed because it's less slippery, I would assume. It's more visible, but there's some evidence of long-term increases in erosion, trail erosion problems when you remove that leaf layer. So we'd prefer to have leaves. We're opting out of the leaf blowing our trails because it sort of builds up the sides of the trail and doesn't minimize erosion. I don't know, Kristen, if you have more, you can say that more eloquently than myself. That's what I remember from our previous discussions on the topic.
Yeah, I think it was 2012 when this discussion, it may have even been sooner than that, when this discussion was initiated, but Carlos and maybe Pete, I know members of, and Jay Sullivan, I can't remember, members of the commission had identified 2 trails, trails to monitor, and they, had a before and an after and saw signs of concern. So not just for the act of blowing the leaves, but that it channelized some of the rain during rainstorm as they were monitoring it. Also, the noise impact, and there was a list of them. It's on our town website as land use policy, but I would say that there was a fair amount of chatter on the Facebook pages about to leaf blow and to not leaf blow. It's always been a controversial, very divisive topic, so I'm not surprised. But at the bottom, I guess the bottom line is the Conservation Commission manages that property. That's your responsibility, and it's up to you to decide how you want to do that.
Yeah, I wonder if next fall we should have sort of a communication with Toby and the Fort Rock Riders to just put the word out there, like
It already happens. It's
don't leaf blow.
whoever did it already knew that it wasn't supposed
Already,
to.
yeah.
It's there's 2 schools of thought, and both of them have their valid points, but ultimately, I think it's kind of a wash between either doing it or not doing it. So if a decision was made not to do it, well, that's the way it should be. And it's going to come up for discussion. It comes up for discussion every year, and it's the same people that complain about it and all that. But basically, lasts for a few months. The leaves get crunched down, and it's over with. So, yeah, well, Toby has attempted to make people aware that, it's against the town policies on the town pieces. So, I think that's all you can really do. I don't really know how it gets policed other than self-policed.
Yeah. No, we can't be out there.
Well, I mean, even if we are out there and you see someone leaf blowing, like, what are you going to do, beat them up? Or, take their leaf blower and run? Or, I mean, it's not like there's any authority that's going to enforce, a penalty if one existed even.
No, you just hope they respect the fact that, you've been given this great resource to use, and this is what the resource managers have chosen. Agree with it or don't agree with it, but that's just the way it is.
I personally would say something.
Huh?
I personally would say something, but, I mean, someone may not be aware who's doing it, but
Yeah, I doubt it.
they may.
But also,
I give them the benefit.
currently, a significant portion of the trails that are in that network are on private property. So if people wanted to go to the Ruggs and say, hey, can we leaf blow?
Oh, absolutely.
Then
Yeah.
there certainly could be enough trails that people that needed to have leaf-blown trails to be able to ride could have a nice ride. Same thing with the Shaftmaster property. I mean, it's a decent percentage of trails that could be blown if they
Right.
got permission from the landowner.
But that's another thing that'll have to be ironed out when, if we ever get to the point of having joint administration of the Rugg piece. You can't be taking on the Rugg piece and leaf blowing on one portion of it and not on another portion, because first of all, who knows where the boundaries are? And, I just... picking and choosing, like, the Shaftmaster piece, that's easy, because that's on one side of the circle, and that's all private. But even on the right side, there's portions there that are Shaftmasters, but I don't think they should be leaf blown, because for all intents and purposes, they're interwoven with the town forest. So, nope. I think there's nothing to do except next fall when the discussion comes up, maybe the Conservation Commission chimes in again on the Facebook page.
I do regret, so I made the post on, as the Conservation Commission Facebook page, I did post on Fort Rock Riders, and I should have listed all of the reasons that the policy included, because it's not just erosion, but in the future we can do that and maybe give more background.
Yeah.
But I suspect it will always be a hot button issue if you spend any time looking on any trail pages. This is always an issue.
Yes. All right. We got minutes?
Okay, well, that was good. A few more things. Outreach events. I want to do that full moon snowshoe in February, so we should pick a date for that. I think it's also in January, maybe a good time to have a meeting for the Alewife an Alewife Festival planning meeting to kick that off. That was Sarah's idea. Those are two upcoming things. And there's a bird. Kyle's doing a bird event, right? You're still working on that?
Yeah, I think we're working on a name, I think. And I did kind of some test runs, and I think we might be able to beat the 11 that Kristen suggested as a target. But I think my vision is that it's seasonal, so we could start January 1st, and that would be the winter version, which would end March 21st, I guess, and then we'd start over again for a spring version. And so it's pretty much going to be self-managed through the Facebook page, I think, and people just kind of can post their results and I don't even think we need to have any kind of prizes or anything like that, but. Kristen, anything?
I think we should do some sort of prize, even if it's the trail sticker or something minor. I just think it's fun to have something to strive for, but. So we'll get that posted. Snowshoes. So we'll get that posted after the holidays, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you have a name? I'm not putting you on the spot. No, not
Kristen,
yet. Okay.
Kristen has a bunch of options, and she's going to pick.
Okay.
No?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want me to read them off? You want to hear the options?
I was just seeing
That
if
we were
you had
toying
fun.
with?
No, we don't.
That's good.
Oh, wait.
Okay, be surprised. All right.
Okay, so one other thing was the 23 Water Street last week.
Oh, yeah.
I think most of us were here.
Yeah, I was.
Michelle, you weren't, but so we were part of
Planning.
one of 4 committees that all approved the town accepting the 23 Water Street property. There was a good
Recommended.
Recommend, right? There was a good article, Seacoast Online. I don't know if you saw that. There was a reporter here that night, and then there was an article the next day about it. There was a public hearing last week, and there's another one next week for the acceptance of that property. So it looks like that's moving forward.
Nice.
That's very exciting.
That's nice, yeah.
There'll be some committee formed to design the park, and it's not clear exactly if there'll be access to the river or not. That seemed like something that was not fully decided on, and how to pay a tribute to the building that was there and the history of the property. And Keith maybe is donating some of his time to help with some of the physical issues, so that's amazing.
Yeah, so the 18th, there'll be a public hearing, public comment opportunity, and then the select board would vote if they want to or not want to accept the property. So that decision has not been made. That decision is up to the select board.
Well, how did the first hearing go?
I think it was just a presentation, so it was the other morning, that
Right, it was at
Friday,
8 o'clock
I think
in the
it
morning or
was,
something.
yeah. It was really just a presentation and
But I mean-
opportunity for public to speak.
Were they receptive to it, though?
Oh, yeah, maybe they don't even
No,
comment.
I don't
It's just an
remember
opportunity
anyone
for
individually
public.
commenting, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, it's a public hearing. It's people to submit their testimony, whether or not they think it's a good idea or not. Nick couldn't be here, but he just wanted to mention this and to say that he's certainly supportive of the project, but realizes that there needs to be long-term maintenance of it, and Parks and Rec will be in charge of that, but they have trouble keeping up with their existing properties. So he wanted to make a comment that, there's ongoing costs associated with that property, and wanted to make sure that the town leadership's not losing sight of priorities, because we have a lot of long-term maintenance issues like Rains Barn and other things going on. And we have a long list of work to do on just to maintain our existing assets.
True.
So that was his point, in that I don't know if there's what other sort of considerations need to go along with acquiring this property. That's, I think, a very valid point that was not talked about at the meeting that we were in. He may be going to the hearing on the 18th. So, all right, so that's that. I don't know if anyone has any other comments on Water Street. Okay, why don't we approve the minutes? Does anyone have any comments on the minutes?
Line 102, it was Kristen and I that went to that conference, not Valerie.
Okay, so it should be Michelle.
Yeah.
102, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Good catch. Anything else? Thought they look good.
That looked good.
Okay, I'll motion that we approve the minutes as edited.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
I'll abstain.
One abstention.
Me as well, just because I wasn't here. Me
Okay.
as well? I will too. That's what I want to say there.
Me.
So we have 2 abstentions, so the motion will pass. How many are we? 5, 0 to 2. Any other last things? Thank you guys for coming to our meeting today. I don't know if you have any last parting words for us.
I did have a couple dates that I wanted to be sure the commission was aware about before we close. This Wednesday, so tomorrow, from 6:30 to 7:30 is the public presentation on the downtown and parking pedestrian analysis that work has been ongoing. That'll be across the street at the town hall. From 7:30 to 8:30, it'll be open house style, but the presentation will be starting at 6:30. December 14th, which is Thursday, from 4 to 6:30 is the board and commission celebration across the street. The select board and town administration invite you all across the way for drinks and good times and cheer to thank you all for your work throughout the year.
Did everyone get that invitation?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And then the last one was just the Rugg property is going before Lynette. You mentioned this, Drew, right? Lynette is presenting has requested time on the select board agenda on December 18th to discuss, provide them an update on the Newfields portion and discuss the project in general. And Nancy wanted me to send along holiday wishes to you all.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great way to end. Yeah, happy holidays to everyone. I want to thank everyone for a good, productive 2023. It's been a lot of projects and now a lot of conservation projects and properties. It's an exciting moment here, I think, for us in town. So, yeah, I hope everyone has a good holiday, and we'll regroup in January.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Okay, I'll motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.